What do you think he's got in his hands in that one of the handbags that we see in some of the figures from ancient Sumer? What if ancient civilizations knew way more about time than we think? Graham Hancock dives deep into wild theories that mix time travel with mysterious symbols such as ancient handbags. Yeah, you heard that right. Handbags from thousands of years ago might actually hold the key to lost knowledge and secrets of the universe. It might sound crazy, but Hancock's got a way of making you question everything you thought you knew about history. And the first one who did some questioning recently is no other than Mr. Curious Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has become one of the most influential cultural figures in the realm of alternative history and fringe science. One of his most frequent and fascinating guests is Graham Hancock, a British author and journalist known for his radical theories about ancient advanced civilizations and their forgotten knowledge. A recurring motif in Hancock's work and often discussed on Rogan's podcast is the idea of shared ancient symbolism across seemingly disconnected cultures. One striking symbol is the ancient handbag icon, a shape carved into the art of Mesopotamia, Mesoamerica, and even Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. Hancock uses such motifs to suggest the existence of a lost global civilization or knowledge system. Rogan is not only intrigued by these ideas but also frequently defends the legitimacy of entertaining them in mainstream discourse. In some conversations, this speculation veers into discussions about time travel, higher dimensions, and psychedelic consciousness. Graham Hancock is one of the most well-known and controversial figures in the world of alternative history and archaeology. Hancock isn't an academic archaeologist or historian, but that hasn't stopped him from amassing a massive global following. His books Fingerprints of the Gods, Magicians of the Gods, and more recently America Before have sold millions of copies, and his appearances in documentaries and podcasts, including Netflix's Ancient Apocalypse, have helped bring his ideas into the mainstream. What makes Hancock's worldview so compelling for many readers is his boldness. He questions conventional historical narratives and dares to ask whether we might have forgotten an entire chapter of human civilization. At the heart of Hancock's work is the idea that there once existed a highly advanced civilization during the last ice age, one that was destroyed in a global catastrophe around 12,000 years ago. He argues that remnants of this lost civilization survived and passed on their knowledge to later cultures like the ancient Egyptians, Mesopotamians, and Mesoamericans. According to Hancock, the evidence for this forgotten society can be found not only in myths and legends from around the world such as the story of Atlantis but also in mysterious archaeological sites like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, the Sphinx in Egypt, and underwater ruins off the coast of Japan. He suggests that mainstream archaeology either ignores or dismisses this evidence too quickly, clinging too tightly to its established timelines and paradigms. One of Hancock's core themes is the idea that ancient peoples possessed advanced knowledge, especially in areas like astronomy, architecture, and geodesic knowledge that doesn't seem to fit with their supposed technological capabilities. For instance, he often points out the precision of the Great Pyramid's alignment with true north or the mathematical sophistication found in ancient structures across the world. He argues that this kind of knowledge suggests either direct inheritance from a more advanced predecessor or, at the very least, that our assumptions about the intellectual abilities of prehistoric cultures are far too limited. Hancock frequently emphasizes that human history may be much older and more complex than we've been led to believe. Another defining feature of his worldview is his open opposition to what he sees as the gatekeeping nature of academic institutions. He often positions himself as a kind of outsider or rebel, challenging the orthodox views held by professional archaeologists. While some critics accuse him of pseudoscience, Hancock insists that he's simply following the evidence and encouraging curiosity. He sees himself as part of a long tradition of thinkers who question authority and aren't afraid to consider ideas that lie outside the academic comfort zone. His writing is infused with a sense of wonder and mystery, inviting readers to imagine a deeper, more magical past, one filled with forgotten wisdom, cosmic cycles, and cataclysmic events that shape the world we now inhabit. Hancock's influence can't be denied. Whether or not one agrees with his conclusions, he's helped spark public interest in ancient history and archaeology in ways few other popular authors have. He brings a narrative flair and emotional depth to topics that are often treated as dry academic subjects. One of the more fascinating and oddly specific puzzles that pops up in Graham Hancock's work, and among alternative history enthusiasts in general, is the so-called ancient handbag motif. At first glance, it sounds almost ridiculous. Why would anyone care about what looks like a carved purse on the walls of temples and ruins thousands of years old? But when you start noticing that this handbag-like shape appears not just in one place but across vastly different ancient cultures like Mesopotamia, Mesoamerica, and even at the mysterious site of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, it suddenly becomes a much more intriguing question. How did this oddly specific symbol end up scattered across the ancient world? Let's start with where this motif actually shows up. In ancient Mesopotamian art, gods like the Apkallu, mythological beings associated with wisdom and civilization, are often depicted holding a small bucket-shaped object with a handle. It looks remarkably like a modern handbag or even a lunchbox, and it usually appears alongside the famous pinecone-looking object the figure holds in the other hand. In Mesoamerica, particularly in Olmec art, there are carvings of figures clutching what seem to be similar objects, sometimes with even more stylized handles. Then there's the 12,000-year-old site in modern-day Turkey that's become central to Hancock's theories. On one of the massive T-shaped pillars at Göbekli Tepe, there's a carving of three nearly identical handbag-like shapes neatly lined up in a row. That site predates writing, metal tools, and agriculture. Yet, someone took the time to carve these symbols into stone with incredible precision. What were they trying to say? Mainstream archaeologists generally take a pretty grounded view of these symbols. In Mesopotamian art, the handbag is usually interpreted as a ritual bucket used for carrying holy water or pollen during ceremonies. The pinecone, on the other hand, is seen as a symbolic tool for purification or blessing. These are fairly standard religious symbols in many ancient cultures, representing fertility, renewal, and cleansing. As for the Mesoamerican examples, scholars tend to chalk them up to cultural motifs or symbolic items like containers for offerings or ritual objects. In the case of Göbekli Tepe, where there's no writing to explain anything, the official line is more cautious. The bags could represent abstract ideas, ritual items, or even stylized depictions of something more mundane, maybe baskets or tools common to daily life at the time. But Hancock and others who follow alternative interpretation see something much more mysterious and unified at work. For him, the recurring handbag shape across multiple ancient cultures isn't just coincidence or parallel symbolism. It's a clue that points to a lost source of knowledge, a shared inheritance from an advanced civilization that predates the ones we know. Hancock suggests that the handbags might be symbolic representations of something like a container of knowledge or even a technological device. Some interpretations go as far as speculating that the object could have been a kind of energy device or portable container of some ancient power. That might sound far-fetched, but Hancock's argument isn't that we should jump to conclusions. It's that the pattern is too consistent and specific across cultures and time periods to be brushed off as mere chance.